Lovely, wouldn't it? Me coughing my guts off as we go live. Now, Charlotte, do you know where your towel is?
Mm.
I shouldn't laugh. It makes me cough. Oh, dear. Okay, well, we'll give the notifications a couple of minutes to go out. Yeah, if you're watching this after the fact, welcome back to the channel. And I actually managed to, this will be my 4th video in like 2 days. 2, 3 days. You idiot. Oh dear.
Yeah.
So,
ready to hitchhike the galaxy.
Yes, hitchhiking the galaxy one last time. That's the tagline for the last book. So we are Knitting Book Club. Links below for Charlotte, including your show, which is now being postponed to October.
Yeah, so that link's probably not right.
Yeah. Oh, I just had it linked to the show. I didn't have it. So if they just kept.
Because they took that down, so I don't know if they've put it back up yet. I'll have to check. They took down everything, and I think they're re-putting it up.
I might have to get the new link off you then and update it because it will probably have a different code.
Yeah, if you just link to the Butterfly Club, it should be right.
Oh, we'll worry about that later.
If it's just the Butterfly Club page. I'm curious now whether it's up. I'm trying to find it.
It might not be.
Quickest way to find out would be to Google, Charlotte, wouldn't it? So this riveting content is brought to you by the fact that I'm disorganized and don't know what's happening with my life.
It's okay. We're in lockdown 6.0. I think we're allowed to be a little bit disorganized.
Yeah.
Ow. Oh.
I don't think I've brushed my hair in about 3 or 4 days, so holding it together relatively well.
Yeah. So I haven't brushed my hair in about, a week, maybe 2 weeks, but Mark brushes it for me because he's got a little comb and he insists on brushing mine and Morgan's hair at the moment.
It's not up yet.
Okay. I'll have to let me know when it's up and I'll update the link.
Yeah, it's not up yet, but it will be up soon. I think we were meant to be announcing the new dates today. And I just finally actually have my pattern for knitting here today. So
yay! So what are you knitting today?
I started the white on the tail already. Damn. I'll be working on the jumper I've been working on for the last 3 years and still haven't finished.
That's all right.
That's all right. It's something to tell my psychiatrist when I finally get an appointment. You have hobbies? Yes. Do you finish them? No. Do you have an example? Well, I've been working on a jumper on and off for 3.5, 4 years.
You know what, though? When it comes to knitting, it's the act of actually doing it that's relaxing, not finishing the product. So I would say don't worry about it.
4 years. I just realized it has been, maybe 5. This time, 2016, is that 4 or 5 years ago?
It's 5. We had this issue on Wednesday night when I was trying to work out how old JJ was. It's 5 years.
Yeah. 5 years.
And if you've actually watched my author vlog, which I put up earlier today, you actually see me counting. So there is proof I can actually count. I was just having difficulty on Wednesday.
Do I have another ball of the white?
Oh, sorry. My ear infection / throat infection, whatever the hell it was, is slowly going.
Oh, that's
very slowly. Oh, now there's a book I haven't read in a long time. Fairy tale.
I just realized I should have started bringing the white into the tail already.
Oops.
And I haven't. That's all right.
You can always tink down.
Pardon?
You could always tink down just in that area and fix it.
I cannot be asked. I think I'm in around the right place. I just need to start bringing it in a couple of spots. The annoying thing is I don't have a second ball of white, which means it's going to have the bunched up back problem again, which is going to be really annoying.
Yeah, you have to knit from the other end. Ooh. Yeah. Okay. So
Oops.
Sorry, don't mind me. I went down a rabbit hole on the Robinson Bookshop website and just going through their science fiction and fantasy listings just to see if there's anything that looks interesting to read.
Yeah. I love browsing bookshops, but I rarely ever actually buy anything in them. I don't know what it is that sells me on books. I think it's people's personal recommendations or like the writing excuses descriptions sometimes of what the book's about. Sometimes
yes. I have read a lot of books because of that. But I also too, I was recently rewatching a woman whose podcast I followed for some years. And in one of her first podcasts, she actually recommends a book called Wool, which is a sci-fi, a dystopian. And I'm like, I never did get around to reading that. So I went and bought the first book on Audible. And I've got it then, because I find that if I buy the first book and if I read it and like it, then I'll remember to get the rest of them. That might explain why I've, only got like the first book of The Wheel of Time. And no, actually, I've got about 3 books of The Wheel of Time.
Yeah. Well, see, I don't actually buy that many books. I tend to I've actually bought a lot of audiobooks through Audible now.
Yeah, it's Audible that I buy. I don't really buy physical books, as you see my bookshelf.
Yeah, I tend to. Well, I do buy the odd one, and I tend to actually be more inclined to buy a book that I have already read, that I know I love, that I want to reread.
Yes, that's exactly what I've been. That's exactly what I've been doing. Is I will buy a book if I've listened to it on Audible or read it as an ebook. But I'm tending to not read ebooks at all much anymore. But if it's an audio, timing, audiobooks.
Yeah.
If I like it as an audiobook and I think I want to reread it, I'll buy the physical book. Hey Shay, how you going? Sorry, I just randomly cough at the moment.
I just fucked up my knitting because I wasn't concentrating on what I'm meant to do. I ended up, because I'm using so many different colors to do this pattern, right? One of the issues I had at the beginning, which I worked out how to fix by sort of doing this I'll show you the back. You can see how there's like the little bits. What the issue I was having was, I think it was in the middle actually, where I had columns where, or maybe, no, it was on the edges, I think. It was somewhere. Basically how I fixed it, what was happening was when I switched to 2 different colors and there's 2 panels side by side where the thread is just going backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards, you end up with a big hole between them.
You weren't twisting your yarn. You need to drop one color and then pick the second color up underneath it.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I forgot to do just then. And that's what I figured out pretty much straight away. I was like, oh, that's what I need to be doing.
And I was too busy talking. I was so busy talking then I just kept knitting when I should have done a wrap and turn. Bear with me for a moment.
That's all right. I looped one back on the wrong spot. There we go. Okay, now I'm back on track. White. So I messed up 2 different things there. I forgot to bring the white thread over. Was the first. And the second one was I forgot to twist it.
I'm the same. I usually buy new books if I absolutely love the audiobook. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the same. I've obviously I'm time poor and I have to really manage how I spend my time. So if I'm going to sit and read a book, it's usually got to be something I know I want to spend that time doing, because I could be doing 15,000 other things, including writing my own novel.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, Shay, that is still the fox jumper.
5 years in the making. When I finish this, it's going to be the best ugly jumper.
It's the act of knitting that is the point.
But also, I can't wait to have a really good ugly jumper that's like also a fun ugly jumper. Because it is going to be an ugly jumper. The fox is going to look fucking great, but the rest of it is this lumpy brown pattern. So it's literally a big lumpy brown jumper with a fox that looks awesome on the front.
Yeah, see, Shay agrees with me. It's the act of knitting. Shay, you're a crocheter, aren't you?
Yeah, she is.
From memory, yeah. See, I used to love crochet, but the action, yeah, it for a while there I was getting really bad strain, and it was they actually got the test. They thought I might have had carpal tunnel, because obviously my paid wage work is administration, which is a lot of typing, and then I would come home and I would be typing on the computer or crocheting, and yeah, I had to give up something.
I go both ways, in more ways than one.
Yeah.
It's also a really handy tool to have when you're knitting.
I've still got my hooks. And I will crochet again. I just won't crochet all the time I used to, you know. So
I've got a bodkin in there as well. Good. And a battery and a ruler and a pencil. The more you know. This has unsurprisingly irritated me a lot. This white looping thing. So I've decided, which I did consider doing originally, what I'm going to do is just unravel the entire ball and chop it and turn it into 2 balls.
That might be the easiest way to do it, because if you're pulling from both sides, you're going to end up with tangles.
Well, I'm going to have to cut half of them anyway. Like I had that. Where did I have it? I had it here, and I cut down the middle and tied them to each other.
Yeah.
Which was annoying. I wish I'd gotten 2 balls of orange earlier. Oh, I do have 2 balls of orange going. Oh, it was the black as well. The orange wasn't as much. The black is a pain in the ass. The black on the legs is all bunched up.
Well, see, the other option might be, rather than splitting the ball in half, is just wind off maybe 10 or 20 meters and cut that and use that. And then, because you don't really know what how much yarn you're going to end up needing in what spot.
Well, I do, because I've got the pattern. So for the tail, actually 10, 20 meters is probably enough for that white chunk on the tail.
Yeah, and then you could also do the same with the 2 eyes, where the face is, because you're going to have to do that too, and then you're going to have to do that with the ears as well.
Yeah. So. Well, that would work if I had a second ball. I could use the tail ball.
Yeah.
By the time I start the eyes, the tail is pretty much done, I think. Yeah, it's on a different... There's only one bit left. Yeah, anyway, I'm going to split it. So I'm going to stop knitting for a second and wind wool.
Yeah. Yeah, Shay. Yes. Yeah. I just found that the movement, because I've got hyperflexion, which means I do random gravity checks. I do a service to humanity. I do random gravity checks. I make sure that the gravity of the earth is still working.
Yeah, I do that.
Yeah. And my son
doesn't appreciate it as much as they should.
And Mark does it too. Mark can trip over his own bloody... Mark trips on air. He really does. I don't get it. He was running up the hall today, playing, chasing a ball up and down the house. And he was going in a straight line and he still managed to fall on his face.
I think what I'm going to do is just cut this because unraveling the ball is a pain in the ass, and then I lose a nicely wound ball. And I have to rewind it twice. So I'm just going to cut it and then I'll tie it back together.
Yeah.
I
must admit, Shay, I haven't seen any tutorials about it. I just assumed that it would be the smart way to do it, because you don't want to have 2 half balls when you might only need 20 meters here, 10 meters here, 5 meters there, and you'll end up with, yeah.
If you've only got a small pattern, it's easy, but
yeah,
this is the first big pattern I started, because the last one I don't knit much very often, but I did one years and years ago I made, this is a new level of nerdy, but in a very niche way. I was a member at Spinners and Weavers in Kyneton, because I used to do spinning as well. And I knitted a Christmas stocking for my horse that had his name knitted into it.
That's awesome. Speaking of spinning,
we've still got.
Do you want to see my new toy?
Yeah, go for it. We've still got the stocking, but the horse died a few weeks ago of old age, so the stocking is now memorabilia of sorts.
Oh, my new electric spinning wheel.
Nice.
Cute. It is tiny.
That is very cute.
It's great though, because it's a perfect size, because I can run it off a battery pack. So I can, once I get the right battery pack, I can literally attach the battery pack to the bottom of it, and I can take it anywhere. I can do it out on the kitchen bench. I can do it, I don't have to worry about a big ass wheel where the kids could get their fingers or their toes caught.
Yeah.
So there is a bigger version. This is the Nano. This is the small one. But because it's a whole new hobby for me and I wasn't sure if I was going to actually enjoy it, let alone, keep it up, I figured I'll go for the cheaper one. And then I went and bought some fluff for it.
Yeah.
On Bendigo Woolen Mills. They sell it by the kilo. So I've got this kilo of roving and this tiny.
You'll have to pull it out and use it next time.
Yeah, it is. I got to play around with it a bit and actually learn how to actually do it. But I want to get some suckers so I can suction it down onto the table, because I think I've been told the draw on it is quite strong. The motor's quite good, so you want it nice and stuck so that you can do what you need to do to make it work. But yes,
I guess that's the good thing about a traditional treadle one, is you have a bit more control of being able to stop it quickly if you need to.
And just wait and like angles and stuff. Like I will, like if I like it. See, because I was looking at proper traditional Ashfords and all that.
Yeah.
On Facebook Marketplace constantly just looking, and obviously because when you look at them up on Facebook Marketplace, they keep showing up, don't they?
Yeah.
So they kept popping up, and they're like, one lady was selling one literally about 5 streets from me. It had everything you needed. It was an absolute bargain. And I'm sitting there going, I cannot justify it. I don't have the space anywhere in the house for it. And I didn't really want to be in a situation where, the kids could get their fingers caught in it or something.
That should be enough, shouldn't it?
Yeah, that should be enough.
Quite tightly, so.
You can always just do another roll. Do another small ball if you run out.
This is the other one. I know this will be enough for the pattern. I'm pretty sure it will be enough for the pattern anyway.
Oh, thank you, Shay. It's all right. We'll get started into the book soon. We'll sort of just giving people a chance to get notifications, but I am aware that it's Friday night
already.
Yeah, I'm aware that it's a Friday night, hence, Friday morning for a lot of people. So it's sort of
chill and chatty.
Yeah, it's people tend to watch the rerun, so to speak,
Yeah.
Speaking of reruns, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Douglas Adams. And I say speaking of reruns because every time they did a reboot or a remake of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Douglas Adams changed something in it.
He did, yeah.
Which I thought was awesome. I just thought that was the best way to deal with it. But so yeah, it's a rather old book. I don't even know when it was published.
I'm not sure if this is spam or a wrong number, or if I've forgotten something, but I just got a text that says, "Have you delivered the goods yet? The the food box."
I think they've sent that to the wrong phone number.
I'm really tempted to reply and do a wrong number thing. It's from a very random. I don't recognize this number.
Yeah, someone's just typed in the wrong number. I would normally reply to that going, no, I think you messaged the wrong person.
I'm also intrigued as to what the goods refers to, because that sounds slightly dodgy.
Yes, it does sound very dodgy, actually.
And
I was getting for a while there.
For a wrong number.
Yeah, for a while there, I was getting constantly, like every couple of days, getting texts from people about the kids' soccer game. And I finally, like, someone finally rang, and because I kept messaging back going, you've got the wrong number here. And they rang and they said, oh, this is the number we have for blah, 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 blah. And I went, no. I've had this number since I was 20 years old. This is my number.
Mm.
And they've gone, oh, we're really sorry. You know, this is the soccer club, and it was in like a Western Australian soccer club, kids soccer club.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I'm in Melbourne, so.
Wrong one.
We had a bit of a laugh and we had a good chat. And I said, well, good luck with the game on Sunday. And I hope you get your mandarins sorted, because we're going to have mandarins for their snack in the, you know.
Oh, were they texting you asking you to bring the fruit?
Yeah. It was the dad of one of the kids. They had either written his number down wrong or they transcribed it wrong into the computer or something. And I was always getting these messages, you know, I go, oh, you know, are you right to pick up the kids tonight after soccer practice? Don't forget the water, you know, that sort of thing. And I'm like, but yeah, but I'll just be nice and reply back and say, you've got the wrong phone number, you know.
Yeah, when it's something like that, you don't need to really. But this one, I'm just like, And also, I'm enough of an asshole to kind of get a little bit of enjoyment out of messing with someone for a few minutes.
Oh dear. Okay, Hitchhiker's Guide. So, this is your first time ever reading a Douglas Adams book, was it not?
It was, yes. I've been familiar with his stuff through Dad and some friends and stuff for a while. Well, for years really, but I've never actually picked up or read anything. I have seen the first couple of episodes, maybe one or two episodes.
The BBC one?
The BBC TV show.
I actually think they only did a couple of episodes. I don't think they did the whole movie, the whole book. I don't think because I don't recall ever seeing the end of that. I only recall like the first couple of episodes.
I don't know. I know I watched a little bit of it with Dad once. So I remember him lying in front of the bulldozer and the ships, and then I think it got up to the point. I got up to the point where they met up with
Zaphod. Zaphod.
However you fucking say it.
Potato, tomato.
The guy with two heads.
Yes. Ford's cousin.
Yes.
So it was the radio comedy was 1978, and there was a 1981 TV series, But when did he do the book? 1979 he wrote the book. So he wrote the book just a year after the radio series.
Yeah. And the first series, is it the radio series? The first series, he didn't think it was going to get renewed, so he threw them out of the airlock.
Yes, correct. And then he had to scramble.
And then it got renewed, and he had to figure out how to save them. And then you get the improbability drive.
Yes, because everything that is improbable becomes probable. Yes, no. And look, there's been a few over the years. There's been the Hitchhikers Guide. There's been the radio series, which I've never listened to. There was the 1981 TV series. That was the BBC one. There was a video game.
Oh, geez.
I remember that. It's an interactive game because he was big tech head. Douglas Adams was a big tech head. Huge. So he got the chance. I think it was actually like the spaceship Titanic, where you would like he had a hand in that one too, where you would just sort of wander around the ship and all the robots had a story, and you know you could talk to everything and interact with everything. But the game, the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy game, was a text-based game. It was old school. That was fun. And then they had the feature film, the 2005 feature film, which a lot of people hated.
They did, yeah. So my dad is not a fan of the film, and I have never seen it. I am planning to watch it this week, maybe this week.
I don't mind it because I can appreciate the fact that it was modernized. It's very much modernized for the, you know, there's some real slapstick humor in it. It's very Americanized as well.
Hollywoodized is
Hollywoodized. Yeah, modernized and Hollywoodized. But
the story that I heard through Dad, which is why he is not a fan of the film, well, apart from it being very Hollywoodized, was that Douglas Adams died before it was finished.
Yeah.
But
he was very heavily in the production with it, and then when he died, they went and changed some things.
He was involved heavily in the creation of the film, and he was putting his foot down and not letting them do certain changes that they wanted to make to Hollywoodize it. And as soon as he died, they went ahead and did all the things that he didn't want them to do.
Yeah, which is a shame, but at the same time, I'm sort of the belief that if it gets anybody, even if it gets one person reading the book, it's worth it. So, but I think they cast well in that. They did cast the characters well. But it's a shame it's actually a shame they didn't continue on. And it sort of suffers from who else? What other books? The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe series, the Narnia series, seems to suffer from this as well. It gets started and it never gets finished.
Yeah, I actually watched a really interesting video essay, to go off of Douglas Adams for a second and on a massive tangent. A video essay the other day on why the Narnia film series didn't.
I saw that. That came up in my suggested feed, and I went, "Oh, I'll watch that," and I just never got back to it.
It's really good.
Yeah.
So I watched that, and it's talking about how Disney wanted a big fantasy series to jump on the bandwagon when things like Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter and that were booming, were like the most popular.
Of course, they pick a Christian centric book series.
Yeah. So that's the part of the reason it didn't work. And they go through it. It's a really interesting video essay that goes through why it didn't work. The books, the couple of books that they do work really well. The original film was pretty good.
Yeah.
But the problem is with something like Narnia is, unlike Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter, which follow the same cast of characters through this magical world that's
the big problem with
characters. Narnia is a story about the world and all these random little interesting people who exist in the world. And it's very based on Christian mythology.
Like Voyage of the Dawn Treader, which is like the third one, is the last one. You have one of the original characters from the first book in it, and there's 7 books.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, you spend all this time investing in the characters.
No, it's not. They do show up in the last one when they all die on the train.
I haven't read it in so long.
They show up as adults, as young adults, in their 20s, I think, and they all die in a train crash and then go to Narnia. So Narnia is like they end up in Narnia and then go to the Undying Land or whatever it is in Narnia.
Yeah, well, he's a he was Christian. It was a Christian fantasy, and look, that's not a fault. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
It has a lot of faults, but so does Lord of the Rings, which is my all-time favorite fantasy I've ever read. So, they all have their faults, but I think the big problem with it doesn't have, like, you can't connect to the characters and then keep those characters through the whole storyline, which is the show with all the series.
So the problem with the adaptations, why it didn't work, is because it follows different characters every book. And you never really get much character arcs for a lot of the characters. The movies did a little bit of giving them more, but it's not a character-based series.
No, it's a location-based. It's a mythology. He was he was a contemporary of Tolkien. They actually were both.
They were in a writing group together, weren't they?
They were in a writing group together, yeah, and they were both writing completely different stories.
Which is why on paper it would look like a great one to adapt when Lord of the Rings is doing so well, because they're contemporaries. It's another big children's fantasy series. Disney wants something more targeted towards kids.
Yeah, yes, which Lord of the Rings was not. Lord of the Rings wasn't a adult.
And so on paper you can see the logic behind it, and then in execution you run into all these problems of it's not character based, it's world based and setting based. You don't follow the same characters all the time, so you don't
Which is kind of ironic, because Lord of the Rings was written because Tolkien wanted to create a mythology and a world for a language. Yet he's ended up with a more, he's ended up with characters that, rather than it being about the world alone. And trust me, when you read it.
Maybe we should do a Narnia book at some point.
Yeah. At least the first, or, at least like Find the Witch in the Wardrobe.
I remember book 3 being my favorite.
Dawn Treader?
Oh, no. Well, Dawn Treader, I really liked the movie of Dawn Treader. That's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah.
I think it was mainly because I had a massive crush on both Lucy and Caspian. And in the film, they're just really fun.
Yeah. No, I liked that film. That was a good film, that one.
I liked it. And the video
they were trying to cram so much into a smaller show. You didn't really get a lot of the storyline.
It was
character.
Yeah. What it would work better as, the Narnia series would work a lot better as sort of small independent style films, not aiming for that big blockbuster, because when they try and make it into a big blockbuster, it didn't work.
I honestly reckon it would work better as a TV series, because it's kind of think about Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones, you ended up with the characters you ended up with in season 7 were not the characters only a couple of them were the characters you started with in season 1, because George R.R. Martin kills them all off.
Yeah.
But that's not the point. The show is about the Game of Thrones. So if they made a Narnia TV series, not Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, not Dawn Treader, just Narnia.
Chronicles of Narnia.
And then followed the books through, you could conceivably handle the fact that you had to get to know a new character maybe every season or something.
That's my thread is like
So that's not Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Anyway, yes, it's not Hitchhiker's Guide. It reminded me because of that video essay I saw the other day.
Yeah. No, I saw the same one, and I didn't click on it.
Yeah.
I should have.
No, it's quite good. If you can find it again.
Yeah.
I watched a couple by that channel, I think. They do some interesting video essays. Now, what was the point I was trying to get to? I think it was still something to do with Narnia. Oh yeah, we could do the third book, I believe, is The Horse and His Boy. And that was one of my favorites of the books when I was a kid. I remember it being good. I think I've read them all, but it's so long ago that it's kind of like a fever dream.
Yes. Yes.
And I only really remember the storyline of the ones that there's movies for.
Yeah. And my thing is he does get more and more Christian centric as they go on. So in chronological order, I don't know if it was order of release, but it was chronological order. It's The Magician's Nephew, Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, The Horse and His Boy, Prince Caspian, and The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, Silverchair, and The Last Battle.
Yes, I read the only two that I hadn't read were The Silverchair and The Last Battle, and I think I read those in high school, and was kind of disappointed.
I'm sorry, but I see The Silverchair and I just think of the second book in the Enchanted Tree series.
The Faraway
the Faraway Tree, and then there's like the Wishing Chair or something.
I think there is, yeah. I haven't read those in ages either.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, oh, they were favourites when I was growing up.
Enid Blyton has some great books, but there's she did Famous Five as well, and I remember listening to, there's a podcast I used to listen to that I should pick up again because it was quite good, called The Guilty Feminist.
I've heard of that one. I haven't listened to it, but I've heard of it.
It's quite fun, but they had as a host, they get all these female and sort of diverse hosts on. They had as a host Cal Wilson, like the Kiwi comedian.
Oh yeah.
And she was talking about how she was reading the Famous Five books to her son, and it got to one that I think they were looking, I can't remember where, I think it was maybe whether it was audiobooks or from the library or something. And she got to one and couldn't find it anywhere until she eventually bought it through Amazon or something, like had to buy a copy online, and it was really hard to get. She got this, and it's one of the series of the Famous Five books, and she got it, and she started reading it to her kid and then realized really quickly why it's out of print everywhere, except for like you can still get it. It's because there's a character that comes in the book, and this just shows the age of the books in one of the areas that it's not doing so well anymore. There's a little black boy character called Sooty Lenoir.
Oh god, yeah, well, yep.
And she was just like, oh, wow. And she had that moment because she had them read to her as a child.
Yeah.
And didn't remember any of that. And she had that moment as an adult where you realize that some of the children's books that you read were really like not the best in some ways and did not age.
But it's the advantage of education. I mean, when I was a little girl, gollywogs were perfectly acceptable, and now it's for reasons and for perfectly valid reasons, yes. But I mean, but we didn't know any different.
Yeah.
That's what educate, so yeah, unfortunately it does destroy some things. You look through a rose-tinted glasses, you suddenly have to take the glasses off.
You do. And it's it'd be interesting to reread the Narnia books and see how they hold up. I'm having an interesting time rewatching MASH as well.
Yes.
Because that is, I'm not sure when it was made. I think around the probably 70s or 80s, but it's set
well, you do know it lasted longer than the war.
No,
it started in the 70s, and I think it finished 80s sometime.
Yeah. So MASH, for anyone who's watching who doesn't know, is a show based in it's
A MASH unit.
MASH, is Mobile Army Surgical Hospital.
Yep.
So it's based in
In
one of
Vietnam.
the MASH units in the Korean War,
Not
which is a
Korean War, sorry.
mobile surgical hospital. And it's these doctors and surgeons who don't like, the main character is Hawkeye Pierce, and he's actually a really, like, he's in some
They were
ways
conscripted. But
Pardon?
they were conscripted. They're conscripted. They don't want to be there.
conscripts. They don't want to be there. It's really interesting watching and analyzing his character now as an adult in the 2020s.
Oh God, yeah, the womanizer.
Well, he's not a terrible. He has elements of being a man of his time.
Yes.
He's also probably quite ahead of his time in multiple ways that other characters aren't.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting, and because that's Alan Alda, really, when you think about it. He had his, and he was a product of his times. He grew up with a certain education, and he did change. And Hawkeye shows a fair amount of that.
Yeah, for the 1950s, 60s, he's quite a liberal adult man. Yeah. He is actively anti-racist in some of the episodes. Yes. when other characters, like when there's characters who are being racist towards the Koreans, he literally
I particularly sticks in my mind a couple of times where he stands up for some of the local women. And a few times, like, they're just trying to, they're some of them are sex workers, some of them are just mothers trying to get by with their kids, that sort of thing.
It's probably at least 30% of the episodes, something like that happens.
Yeah.
There's one episode in the first series where an American soldier transfers through and has bought a Korean woman to be his sort of like housekeeper lady.
Yeah, I don't remember the episode.
Yeah. And he's like calling her slur words and stuff all the time as well.
Yeah.
And so the whole plot of the episode is Hawkeye basically trying to get this woman free.
Yeah.
And he succeeds. So he basically comes up with this plan, befriends the guy, tells him off for using racial slurs for the first time, for like straight away, which is great.
Yeah.
But then befriends him and beats him at poker until he owes him enough to have the girl as the prize. And then he says, like, you're free, you're a human, I don't own you, that's fine. And she's originally going to just go back to her family, where her family is just planning to gonna sell her to someone else again. So they actually take the time to sort of give her enough education and self-worth to make her own sort of choices and go. It's really sweet.
You haven't seen the last movie, have you?
I haven't, and don't tell me what happens because I'm watching it through in order.
Yeah, but based on his character, what happens in the movie at the end makes so much sense. It makes so much sense. Just simply because of who Hawkeye is. I must admit, though, I do giggle because you see the memes where you've got Hawkeye, I'm Hawkeye from Marvel, and then you have Hawkeye from the the Last of the Mohicans go, I'm Hawkeye, and then you just have Hawkeye going, I was Hawkeye first.
Funny thing is I didn't realize until I started rewatching this show how much I have become Hawkeye Pierce as an adult. Minus the sort of 50s era mild sexism and homophobia that's ingrained in the society. But even on those levels, his character is a lot more liberal than like Frank Burns. Frank Burns, I feel bad for how badly
they run him. They run over him. I
feel bad, and then you realize what a shitty person he is, and I don't really feel as bad anymore.
Yeah.
But I love MASH because I have a lot of nostalgia for it. So I'm glad that it's sort of holding up pretty well.
MASH is one of the few things that you got to take its faults because of its time. but I do think it does have a certain element of survival in it, just because the themes, particularly when Alan Alda started being more heavily involved in the writing and directing, you can tell his episodes, and they're very, very thematic in dealing with war and the problems around war. Not this person shoots this person; it's the consequences for the people around, and it's very, very I love Matt.
It's a really good sort of show at representing the reality of the Korean War. It's very realistic in that way, but it's also very anti-war in its subtext.
Oh, it's the whole thing is anti-war. Yeah. The whole thing was originally started as anti-war. The original movie with the
other cast. Donald Sutherland, that's right.
Hawkeye. Yeah. The father.
I haven't watched that yet, but it's also on Disney Plus. It's on my suggested list.
Yeah. The only one who went from there to the TV series was Raider.
He's
the
so
only
good.
actor that transferred over.
He's missing several fingers on one of his hand, and they hide it so well throughout the entire show that I think there's only like 3 or 4 points where you can actually spot it.
Yeah. He also too, he was the only one from memory. I was told, I think my dad told me this, that he was the only one that turned around with the TV series and said, I'll take the deal where I get paid less now and I get the royalties.
Smart cookie.
Yeah. Anyway, we're not talking about Hitchhikers.
No. Anyway, I think basically what I wanted to say was I was very impressed by how well MASH held up.
Yeah.
Because even though there is like quite a little bit of sort of sexism and homophobia in the sort of ingrained way, it's in the way of it. The main ways it shows up is either in characters who are assholes anyway, or in the language, which is the language of the era.
Yeah, which is sort of I'm of the belief that you can't. I don't think you should change history. No, I don't. That doesn't necessarily. I agree with it. Doesn't mean I agree with it, but I think you have to be able to look at something like MASH and say it's not perfect because of this, and this. But at the time, this was a perfectly acceptable way to talk to women, and perfectly acceptable way to talk to, an Asian man. And I think it actually, because if we forget it, if we hide it,
if we forget that that's where
we're not learning from our mistakes.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's why I think it's held up so well, is because every instance where something like that shows up, like it's the explanation behind it is because that is the era.
Well, let's face it, Klinger, the most fantastically dressed person in the entire show, and they all just accept him as he is. That no one bats an eyelid. I love that.
Exactly. I love Klinger so much, and there's probably readings you can do where you go, okay, that's mildly problematic now. But the thing is, it laid so much foundation work for what would come after in later decades that I think anyone who actually watches the show, I know I love Klinger. Everyone loves Klinger. Because the only points when people are mildly sort of judgmental towards him are when they are characters who are very conservative characters in the 60s, which makes perfect sense to me. Anyway.
But also too, what I like about Klinger though is just this last point. What I love about Klinger is he is very openly only dressing like that to get out.
To get a Section 8, yeah.
Yeah.
It is funny. I watched the episode today where he actually, the first time they bring in a psychiatrist to analyze him, and the psychiatrist is like, yeah, sure, you can have your Section 8, but I'm putting you down as a certified transsexual homosexual, and it's going to be on your record forever. And he's like, I'm not taking that. I'm just crazy. How dare you? Which
once again, has its problems, but it is.
But at the same time, when you think about it, like, yeah, today that would be considered mildly sort of, I don't know, problematic. But when you think about it, it's perfectly understandable given what we know of history and the legal and social implications of having that on your legal record.
At the time.
Like, at the time. Because everyone at MASH treats him perfectly humanely.
I even remember one of my clearest memories is the episode where he starts wearing man clothes again.
And everyone's shocked.
Yeah, no, but not only is everyone shocked, but he goes to, I think he goes to Hawkeye and he goes, Sydney. He's talking to Sydney. And he's like, I can't stop itching. And he goes, it's psychosomatic. You're so used to wearing the women's clothes to try to get out. The uniform is actually affecting you subconsciously. And then later they're in the OR and he sort of shuffles in and he's doing all this stuff and they're like, how are you feeling? And he goes, upstairs I'm okay, downstairs I'm still itching like crazy. Why? I'm wearing a half slip. It was just perfect because it was just the way they explained it was that it was all psychosomatic because he had used it as his defense against the war.
Yeah.
Anyway, Hitchhikers.
Anyway. We're here to talk about Douglas Adams, not a critical reading of MASH. But maybe I should do a video essay about MASH because I love it so much.
Oh yeah, I'd be in on that. I could talk MASH for hours. I grew up. We used to rush home to watch it.
Yeah, I used to get to watch it after I did my homework when I was with Dad, so that was nice.
Yes. Well, let's jump to a little bit more sci-fi.
Yes.
Good old Douglas Adams.
So I have. We haven't really gone into basically thoughts on the book yet. I have a couple of thoughts.
Well, let's start with overall thoughts on the book.
I enjoyed it overall. I think there's an automatic comparison that happens to Pratchett and other sort of absurdist science fiction fantasy writers.
Yes,
I enjoy.
They were contemporaries of each other too, as well.
Exactly.
I actually think they might have known each other.
I think they did. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did. I enjoyed it, but I did not enjoy it as much as Terry Pratchett, and I think I know why as well. And the thing I found was that I couldn't listen to more than an hour or so before I started to get bored.
The rambling.
So I enjoy the style of writing and the absurdism and the world building and stuff. And I think the reason for that is Pratchett's, whereas Pratchett's I could listen to the entire book in one go.
Pratchett is more concise a writer.
Pratchett is more concise. They both have excellent humor, but Pratchett's characters and stories underneath it are more engaging.
Yeah.
Okay. Whereas Adams is very funny and very fun and has some really great humor and great world building and stuff, but the actual storyline underneath it didn't quite hook me as much. There isn't really a through, like a plot line to pull you through.
And it's the same for all 5, or is it 6 books? And really, because at the end of the day, it's just Arthur Dent surviving in this world that he's been thrown into. And also too, I think there's also the problem about what you're talking about, where it's very much, let's go for this scene, let's go for this scene, let's go for this scene. It's very much indicative of where it started, which was a radio show where they had to do snippets. So it didn't have that, like Terry Pratchett's novels are a story. The novel is a story. When The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy was
a radio show,
5 or 6 episodes. So each episode had to have its own little story. And the only really overarching storyline was the situation of a human in space.
Yeah. So I think the reason I didn't enjoy it as much and I would get bored after sort of an hour or so was combined factors of that it is episodic. So you sort of listen to one episode and you're through, kind of. It's very episodic in its storytelling nature, and there's not a lot of internal conflict for the character.
Well, there's none.
There's pretty much none other than him wanting to get a cup of tea, and he doesn't even want that particularly badly enough for us to have any sort of investment in it.
Yeah.
So the level of investment in the characters is relatively surface level compared to Pratchett, where you have characters like Moist von Lipwig, where from chapter 1, I am rooting for this guy and I want to see everything he does.
Yeah. And I think, and that's where I think I love Douglas. Don't get me wrong, I love Douglas Adams. But I also too, I read this in high school. I read it as a book.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that really changed how I felt about it because I was able to read it a chapter a night. So I read it.
Yeah, that would work.
Yeah. And I think that had a big impact on the actual how the story feels.
Yeah.
But
I think you have to read it, for me anyway, I have to read it in small sort of bite-sized pieces.
Yes.
Whereas my normal mode for listening to books at the moment is to have the audiobook on while I'm at work, while I'm packing orders, which if it's a Monday, I could be packing for 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah. So my thing is too is I normally I'll have the audiobook on in the background whilst I'm doing stuff that's not writing, whilst I'm doing other things.
That being said, though, the advantage and why it doesn't fail completely, I think, for me anyway, getting through it, is unlike June or Brandon Sanderson or something, it's only 5 hours of audio time. So I can listen to an hour and put it down and pick it up 2 weeks later and listen to another hour and still get through it in a month.
Yeah, it's memorable, even though it's not necessarily, it's not riveting, but it is memorable. And I think what makes it memorable is he's got these little asides. They're like the asides, the Babel fish, the deep thought, these asides are just what make it. It's not necessarily the storyline itself. It's the character of Arthur Dent discovering these little asides by reading The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
So this is something else that I have that I found. One of the reasons I wanted to read the book is because I came up for the title for my own book that is referential to The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and I'd never read it. Even though I was very familiar with the plot line and the world and stuff through my dad being a massive fan and through having seen a little bit of the TV show. One of the things that I found interesting straight away that was like, interesting, this changes my perspective slightly on this title that I've chosen, is that The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy title is an excellent title, and it actually refers to a physical book in the world.
Yes.
Which mine does not.
Yeah.
So I'm still thinking of that.
This book has a nice large friendly letters at the front of it. Don't panic.
Don't panic.
I love that. Oh dear. But his humor is what carries the book. I mean, I've pulled up a couple of quotes. This must be Thursday, said Arthur to himself, sinking low over his beer. I could never get the hang of Thursdays. Ships hung in the sky in much the same way that bricks don't.
Yes, that is a classic. I wrote down another one, which I am totally stealing and putting in my book. Maybe in slightly different words, but the idea just tickled me. I think it's said to... How the fuck do you say his name again? The Z guy. Two-headed guy, anyway.
Yeah, Zaphoid.
Zaphoid, yeah.
Zaphoid, whatever, yeah.
I think Stephen Fry said it as like Zaphod or something.
Yeah, Zaphoid, yeah, Zaphoid.
Anyway,
I speak 2 languages, English and bad English.
I think it's around the point where there's the missiles.
Yes.
Someone says, "Are you crazy?" And his response is, "It is a possibility I haven't ruled out yet." And I am stealing that as a personal quote. I want it on a t-shirt or a mug or anything. I am using that as a response to people now.
My favorite quote from him is actually semi-transcribed into the Pirates of the Caribbean movie.
Oh, yeah?
And it was actually a quote from him itself. It wasn't from the book. And it says, "I love deadlines. I like that whooshing sound they make as they fly by."
Yes, Jack Sparrow rips it off.
Yes. Yes.
I love deadlines. I want that on a t-shirt as well.
Yes, I need that. I need that on a cup, actually.
I might have to make some merch of that, because the way I work is I set myself deadlines to make myself procrastinate efficiently. So I would get my producer to set hard deadlines for drafts for my show, and I would get them to set them early, because I know I will procrastinate right up to the deadline, and then I'll panic a day before or the night before and actually get something done. And if that's happening 3 months out from the start of the show, and I actually managed to get the script done, panicking over that deadline, that's good. And people saw it on my channel, because I did like 3 days worth of streaming trying to finish the draft. That was a classic example. The deadline whooshed by. I did not finish on time, but I actually had a draft, and now I have a full draft. And even if we were going on in 2 weeks, which we're now not, we postponed to 2 months away.
Yeah, but you've now got time to practice it.
I had the draft, prepared.
Never read it. Yeah,
the book
it's only 5 hours on audio. It really is a tiny, tiny book. And welcome. I did wave. Welcome.
Yes, hello.
Look, to be honest, one of my other favorite quotes of his, and it's actually a book I would have actually almost preferred to have done over Hitchhikers, and it's his it was his posthumous, like after he died, they collected together a pile of his non-fiction essays.
I would like to read that.
It's called The Salmon of Doubt, and I actually love that. And they do the quote from he was a agnostic. What did he call himself? Agnostic. He called himself something particular in regards to religion. And because he didn't just not believe in God, he actively believed that there was no God. It wasn't just one of those people that just said, "Oh, there's no proof, I don't really care." No, he said, "No, there is no God, and this is why." And he called himself like agnostic or something. It was he's amazing.
We're laughing over Alexis's comment. Adams portrayed the British system perfectly. Here, you need to book an appointment to die.
Yeah, here. Yes, I think I use the term radical rather loosely, just for emphasis. If you describe yourself as atheist, some people will say, "Don't you mean agnostic?" I have to reply that I don't. Really do mean atheist. Sorry, I got mixed up. It's the other way around. I really do believe that there is a God. There is a God. In fact, I'm convinced that there is not a God. A subtle difference. I see no shred of evidence to suggest that there is one, etc., etc. It is easier to say that I am a radical atheist just to signal that I really mean it, to have thought about it a great deal, and that it's an opinion I hold seriously.
Yeah. Radical atheist. I like it.
But and there's this one non-fiction essay in that book about the knobbly things. They're not what you're laughing about. They're the drawer in his office that is just full of little knobbly things.
Yeah, because that's what I was picturing. It's still funny.
He was a Mac user. He would buy the new Mac the minute it came out. So he has this whole storyline about how trying to find this cable to get this computer to go to this printer to do this, to transfer this and that, and oh, I love it. I love it. And that's the same one he had that's the same one where he had the thing about the plumber. Oh, that one's good too. Anyway, sorry, we're off track again. But
okay.
Yeah, I think Hitchhikers is worth the read. I don't think the book itself is necessarily the best book out there, but I think the humor in it is great.
It's basically pure satire, whereas Terry Pratchett is satire with plot.
Yeah.
I think of the two, I love Terry more, but I have a solid respect and appreciation for Adams, and
Yes.
I very much enjoy his use of language.
Yeah, I think his turn of phrase was like him and Pratchett and Neil Gaiman, the three of them.
They turn a phrase like no one else.
The three of them can turn a phrase, like, you know, and obviously Terry Pratchett had just pearlers. Douglas Adams, like, hanging in the sky the same way bricks don't, you know. The image is perfect.
Yeah.
You know,
Yellow.
The bottle of petunias. Oh no, not again. You know, theorists have, you know, speculated on why the petunias thought that. You know?
Yeah.
It doesn't think, where did your brain get this from?
Yes. I
never understood the Vogons until I moved to UK. Now I completely get it. Yes. And I must admit, the one thing that's in the movie, the 2005 movie, that's not in the books, is when they land on the Vogon planet, and they go through, and they get to this point, and Arthur, you know, because at this point Arthur's a fish out of water. He's behind everything. He doesn't understand anything. They get there. They get into this spot, and there's this sort of area where you have to queue because they're Vogons. You know, they're bureaucratic, and Arthur just goes, I can queue. And he just, you know, he's so confident about it. And he gets up there, and they're like, do this form and do this form and do this form. And because he's English, he goes, oh yeah, I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. It's like, it doesn't really, it's like the bit about the Vogon poetry.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, like, the hint is that it didn't actually affect Arthur Dent. Because that the worst poetry in the world was an English woman who, thankfully, all of her records were destroyed when the earth was blowing up.
Yeah.
So Arthur's been subjected to some of the worst poetry in the universe. So he hears the Vogon poetry, and he's just like, okay.
Yeah, and then he starts bullshitting about it. It's like, oh yes, really appreciate your use of metaphor.
Yeah, but you know what? As someone who used to go to author readings, you actually had the person that was trying to compliment the poem writer, and they would struggle with those sorts of words. Like, it's not that they didn't like the poem; it's just that they were trying to articulate how they felt.
It's such a beautiful rendition, because it's that combination of realism and humor at the fact that it's the worst poem in the world that he's trying to compliment, and then there's the added layer of complimenting it might actually save their skins.
Yeah. But though I did like that, but is it wrong though that I must admit, I this is a bit of an aside, is you watch the thing about the Vogons, and when I first saw Captain Marvel, with the
Skrulls,
no, not Captain Marvel, the other one, Guardians of the Galaxy, with the big ship, Roman ship, and I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, oh my god, is he from the Vogue?
He's a Vogong.
Sorry, because it was just that utilitarian look, and I know it was meant to be big and scary and that, but at the same time, I'm just sitting there going, oh that could be a Vogong.
Probably mildly inspired by, because he was one of the sort of, I need to count these, sort of front runners of science fiction in.
Yeah.
Like, it's a cult classic, and anything that he wrote is now influencing the next generation of writers.
Oh yeah, we even have Tau Day. Seriously, we actually have Tau Day.
Yeah.
Which happened on the 25th of May.
Oh, that's just before my birthday.
No. So, yeah, it's not a big book. It's short. It has its moments where it's extraordinarily funny.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, in saying that, though, it is very much a mishmash of situations that the main character doesn't actually have to do anything to get his ass out of it. It's all done for him.
There's not much in the way of competency or tension or drive, but
which in a way does work, because you've got to look at Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy as the first book in a series.
Yeah.
So by the end, Arthur Dent is actually a lot more proactive.
Yeah.
So, and so at the end of the day, the first book is pretty much the first act of the whole series. So he's not very proactive. He's still trying to work out where he fits in this new world. He doesn't even want to be there. He just wants to be at home. He actually is still rocking around in his pajamas at this point.
He's still wearing the clothes he was lying in the mud in.
Yes. Yeah. So, and but I think that really does set up for what happens at the end. Did you like the end?
Now,
did you get what happened at the end?
Let me try and remember. They all get back on the ship. Okay. There's the robot. The robot is fucking hilarious.
Oh, I love that.
The robot cracks me up so much.
So what actually happens is something that they're stuck on this planet, and they're being attacked by two cops, and the cops suddenly die, and there's no reason for them to die. They just die. But when they get back up onto the surface, they see the ship that they came on. That's also dead. And the reason being is everyone's favorite robot.
The robot got bored and went to plugged himself into the ship to talk to it, and the depressed robot depressed the ship so much that the ship committed suicide.
I love Marvin.
And right at the perfect time when they're in the crossfire of these two cops, the ship committing suicide means that the cops suffocate because it kills out their methane system, which is what they breathe. Just that little twist, so cool.
It's just so Marvin.
Yeah, it's so in character. Marvin is such a great character.
Oh, he's genius, absolutely genius, and you can just read him in the most depressed tone.
Oh yeah,
everyone hates
the audiobook is great. So Stephen Fry narrates the audiobook, and he does the voice for Marvin. It's so good. It's like, oh.
Oh yeah. No, I did love it. But well, what was it? It's been on for an hour and 15. Really, at the end of the day, when it comes to Hitchhikers, I would say read it if you can. If you're after a funny sci-fi, it's not an action. It's not a big deep thought, although there is deep thought in it.
There is deep thought is also hilarious.
Yeah, deep thought's very funny. but don't really necessarily expect sweeping storyline.
No. And it's probably a good one to do in small bite-sized sort of chapters. So listen one chapter at a time or so.
Yeah. So I don't really have much else to say about it other than it is funny, and Douglas himself was an absolute classic.
Oh, he sounds like a real laugh. Alexis said, I personally would change my clothes before leaving. I would too if I had warning.
Yeah, well, he didn't have warning. That's the point.
He gets dragged out of the ditch to the pub where, what's his name? Ford Prefect. I love that he named his character after a car.
I just love the reasoning behind it, though, because it goes into great in-depth reasoning behind it.
Oh, it's so good. It's that classic humor where you come up with something, a hilarious idea, and then it's classic, what I would call like, it's the same. It's a lot of the same bullshitting skills I use as an academic theater studies academic, because you come up with something you don't necessarily have a reason for, but it's funny or it's good or it works in the show, and then you have to justify it to academia. And so we have this specific skill set of coming up with artistic reasoning, which is the same stuff that he's using for Ford Prefect's backstory, and it's so funny.
Yeah.
I particularly appreciated that.
So I'm just checking on the babies. They're both good.
Oh gosh!
You mean that? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The movie, they rebuild the Earth. They make Earth 2.0. The book, they don't. In the book, they're literally running for their lives. So they've escaped the mice. They escaped these police people who are trying to shoot them, even though they're trying to arrest them. I loved it. He's just so irrelevant about everything.
They want to shoot you, and then they start shooting. I thought you didn't want to shoot us. Yeah, well, there's just things we've got to do, Yeah.
But in the movie, they actually rebuild Earth. They finish Earth. When in the book they don't. In the book, they leave before it's done. So
in the book, the contract gets cancelled by the mice.
Yes. Because
they're just going to fudge the answer and not actually do the research stuff.
Yeah. What did they end up coming up with? Oh, how many roads must a man walk
down? 42.
It gives you an answer without giving you an answer,
Yeah, it's perfect.
Oh, yeah.
Something I screwed up last row, I think.
So, what we do have to do is we have to decide what book we're going to do next month.
Yes. Now.
So we have a few options. What were we thinking about? We're thinking about a darker shade of magic.
Yes, I am all for that one, but I have just bought a rather nice set of paperbacks that is pre-ordered to be dispatched sometime in October.
So we might want to wait for that one, maybe do that one sort of a bit later. There's Obelisk Gate, which is the second one in the what's the series? The fifth season.
The fifth season. Obelisk Gate. I thought you said I Will Escape, and I was like, that doesn't sound right.
No, Obelisk Gate. I was actually trying to breathe at the same time.
Yeah.
Also, I might add the winner of the Hugo Award in 2017. The first one was 2016 winner. This was 2017, and in 2018, Yeah, in 2018, the third book won not only the Hugo, but it won one of the other awards as well, which I can't think of off the top of my head.
Nebula?
I think it might be. Was it? I can't remember what it was.
I don't know. There's the Hugo
and the. Oh shit! That reminds me. I need to double check who won the Hugos this year. Oh no, they haven't done it yet. I haven't voted yet. Oh shit! I better do that. Anyway, I always buy when I can afford it. I buy a membership for the science fiction convention, the Worldcon, and as part of that, you end up with the right to vote on the Hugos, nominate and vote. So I sometimes vote, sometimes don't, because I don't always have a chance to read them all.
Yeah,
and I want to read them all before I vote. So
you want to sort of give it sort of fair.
Yeah. And what was the last one we were talking about? It was the third one.
So, there was a couple actually. Let me check messages. So, my housemate recommended one called Spaceship Grifters, which, given our recent array into trying to make space pirates a subgenre, is quite appropriate.
I actually read the synopsis on it, and I actually don't think it would suit a pirate.
Maybe not, but there's
because
probably
it's more of a heisty, sort of based one.
Yes, I believe that is true. The other one was some more Pratchett, so that we could do more of the comparison between Pratchett and Adams. And
we're thinking of guards because we could then also watch The Watch, which is based off the Ankh-Morpork Force guards.
Yes. I think the most in favor of that, because I'd like to wait on A Darker Shade of Magic until about November. And then we need to think of something Christmassy to do in December as well. We've already done
Hogfather, haven't we?
Are there any Neil Gaiman sort of Christmas Carol sort of things?
Bound to be.
There's got to be something, right?
Hang on.
That's something we can research, maybe. So I'm thinking that we do guards first, and then we do Obelisk Gate in October, because the next one's September, so we do guards September, Obelisk Gate October,
and then we can do Darker Shade of Magic in November.
And then do something for December.
I reckon that's a good list, because I'm willing to give V.E. Schwab another go.
You better be. I don't want to get your expectations super high, but I think you will enjoy A Darker Shade of Magic a lot more than you did Addie, based off of what your critiques of Addie were.
But see, Addie though is not a book I think I have to enjoy, because I read it as a literary novel. I did not read it as a pulp culture novel. I read it as a literary novel, and literary novels are meant to make you uncomfortable, and and you don't necessarily have to enjoy them to read them and get something out of them.
Yes.
So I can't say I hate Addie, because I have thought a lot about that book since I finished reading it, but I don't love it. I'm not screaming to reread it. In fact, I've put it in my pile of books to get rid of, but I just don't know if I'm going to get rid of it or not. I honestly don't know.
I still have not finished it.
Yeah, but finish it because it's worth it. But as I said,
I really enjoyed it, and I know the things that bothered you and Emmy won't bother me, because we just have different reader tastes in that regard.
Yes.
But it's just a matter of time, really. I might buy the audiobook and listen to it, because I think I'm at the point, it's been almost a year and I need to start the reread from the beginning. And I remember the language was just beautiful and very, very enjoyable to read. But I didn't finish Addie but I have read the entire Shades of Magic series that V.E. Schwab done. And of the two, Shades of Magic is actually my favorite. And she's working on book 4 in the Shades of Magic series at the moment. Well, actually, I think it's the Threads of Power series, which is it's the second trilogy in the same universe, which sounds amazing. Honestly, the first trilogy I really enjoyed, and I think it's mainly because of the writing and the characterization, and it's just a really fun, kick-ass female character with piracy and magic and alternate Londons, and it's brilliant. But yeah, I've just treated myself to some physical copies because I listen to all the audiobooks. And I love one of the narrators on the audiobooks. I do like both the narrators on the later audiobooks, but the first audiobook was narrated by just the woman. And I really loved that. And I wish they'd kept it as just a sole narrator for the entire book, because they brought in Michael Kramer, who does the Mistborn series, for the male points of view in the later books. And I was mildly disappointed just because when Kate Redding is narrating Lila Bard's chapters, the voice that she does for the male characters, especially for Alucard, I absolutely loved the way she did those characters. And then the way that Michael Kramer did them, I didn't enjoy it as much. Because I just wanted it to be her version. But the audiobooks are excellent as well. And I've just bought the paperbacks, and I'm looking forward to having a nice little present arrive to myself from the past in the future.
It's not Christmas themed, but there's that ocean at the end of the lane, Neil Gaiman.
Oh, I still haven't finished that. I've been reading it on and off.
I bought it and I've got it. I haven't read it yet.
I got it from the library twice and still didn't finish it. I do eventually want to. I think I got about halfway through, maybe more. I don't know.
That's a novella, isn't it?
It is. I found it really hard to get into, but it wasn't bad. I think it was just not grabbing me the same way that some of his other stuff does. But I do want to finish it, and maybe that would be a good way. And the thing that I really like about it is the dedication, because he wrote that for Amanda Palmer, and I love both of them. In fact,
there's also The Sleeper and the Spindle, a reimagined fairy tale.
I love that. I love that. I have read that one. I listened to the audiobook. For anyone who's wondering, that is Amanda Palmer on that poster up there. So my love for her runs deep. Sleeper and the Spindle is very good. I listened to an audiobook of Sleeper and the Spindle, and that was very good.
What's the one he I always wanted to read his Coraline?
Coraline. That's also good as well. And I haven't read it in a while, so I'd be happy to reread Coraline to do a discussion of it. It's a very easy read, Coraline, as well. I think what else? Good Omens. We've read.
And the Spindle is available as a graphic novel.
It is, and the illustrations are done by Chris Riddle, who I followed on Instagram because I love his art style. And he does very satirical political sketches on Instagram.
So that one could be. I reckon that one could be in the running for Christmas. But
yes,
because I love me a graphic novel, I really do, and I got to get back into reading them all.
So yeah, I would actually like to read the graphic novel of that as well, because I've only listened to the audiobook, and you miss out on his illustrations then.
Yeah. So hang on. So let's backtrack. So what are we doing next month?
We are doing Guards by Terry Pratchett.
Correct. Okay, cool. So I'll have to get a copy of that.
Yes, I will have to look up and see if I can find the audiobook. I do really love that the same narrator has done all of Terry Pratchett's audiobooks for Discworld.
Yes. Oh, Ali, please don't make me jealous. You're allowed out. It's getting harder and harder.
I've got my classic lockdown stream on Sunday morning.
Yeah. I was going to do a craft stream tomorrow night, but hubby's home for the first time in a few weeks on a Saturday, so we're going to have some family time. But
yes,
yeah, I really like the look of that Sleeper and the Spindle. That looks really good.
It is a really fun read,
and I love there's another one out there called who wrote it? It's called Fairy Tale, I think. Fairy Tale? I read it years ago. Oh, come on. Also, it might be worth putting on, because what it is it's like one girl and she's like Raymond Feast. Raymond D. Feast. He wrote The Magician. And it's a family moves into this old house, and it's the house is a center point of centuries-old evil intent on making its presence felt to the intruders. Yeah, it's pretty. It's good. I quite liked it. You know, I'm not one to read.
This is my yarn mess.
I'm about to start. Once I finish, I got 2 projects. I got this project to finish, and then I got Mark's blanket I have to finish. And then I want to do a pair of socks, but I want to try 2 at a time. And I don't want to split the ball. So I'm going to have to be knitting from the inside of the ball and the outside of the ball at the same time. And I vaguely recall seeing a tool that you could get that you would put the yarn through and it would stop it twisting on itself. Do you think I can find that anywhere?
No, probably not.
I mean, a paperclip would probably work, actually.
Might do, yeah. I have like 6 or 7 balls of wool attached to this thing now, so.
Yeah.
6. 7? Is the black still attached? The black is still attached. It doesn't need to be. I should have tied that off already. Bring it back later. Cool. So next month we'll do some Terry Pratchett.
Yep. Guards. And we'll also do The Watch, which is the TV series.
TV
show based off the characters of the novels. Yeah. It's not a direct transcription.
It's got what is that woman's name? She is a fabulous British actress. Is it Fiona Shaw? No, it's not Fiona Shaw. It is. I'm looking it up now. Television program. Who is the actress I'm thinking of? Where is she? She plays Lord Vetinari. Anna Chancellor. I have seen her in something. I don't know what it was. No, I do know what it was. She was in a very niche, small British TV show with Tom Hiddleston that I watched. What was that? Was that like Neighborhood Watch or something like that?
Sorry, you hear that?
Yeah.
That's in
Oh,
his sleep.
guess who is in both The Watch and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy movie? Suburban Shootout. That's what she was in. That's what I've seen. It's a very sort of small British TV show that Tom Hiddleston was in. One of his first sort of roles on British TV when he was a young lad. It's quite a funny little show.
Sorry, I don't know if I think he may have his head stuck between the bed and the thing. I'll be back in a second.
No worries. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Finished. I had something I was going to fill time with, but I can't remember what it was. Oh well.
It's okay. He was just in a position where there's a spot where his bed is and his side table, and you just can't see his head.
Yeah.
The way he was thrashing about and screaming, it looked like he'd got his head stuck between the two. He hadn't. He was fine.
Which you wouldn't
sleep, but it scared the hell out of me.
All right.
Anyway.
I have some thoughts regarding Hitchhiker's Guide and my book that I think we should maybe go over before we finish. But I also really need to go to the loo, so I'm gonna run pee and I'll be back.
Oh dear.
And then we can go over book ideas.
Yeah, no worries. So you actually reading anything at the moment, guys? I didn't actually mention it earlier, but I'm actually knitting the half and half wrap, the Pearl Soho one. So, oh God, it takes forever. Why I choose such big patterns, I do not know. Okay, that one's stirring, but she's okay. Yeah. So, circus. So which circus are you actually going to, Alexis? Just do. Sorry, you get Renee, hold music. Da 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 dum dum dum. Do. I kind of got this urge to buy a pile of books from my local bookstore at the moment. I'm not going to read any of them. I don't have space for them. But I will definitely get Guards because it's Terry Pratchett and I need to start building up my collection again. And I love the hardcovers.
Just remembered I have glasses in the oven.
Ooh!
They're not
I have
hot. I
ice
need to
cream.
turn the oven off, but
I have ice cream.
Yum.
Not just any ice cream. I've got the Magnum dairy free.
Ooh,
I like them. I eat them by choice.
that sounds good.
Yeah, they're made from pea protein.
Yum.
Yeah, so and because I sometimes have issues with dairy, so I quite like them as like a, you know, when we're having little ice creams, I might as well have one, you know. So
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. So, a couple of things that went through my head, because one of the reasons I was reading this book was for reference because of my own book. I really shouldn't have decided to eat while trying to explain complex concepts. But here we are. So the current working title for my book is referential to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy in its structural makeup. And the thing I liked about this, other than being a fun, snappy title, is that it gives me the freedom to add back in some humor that I had removed for being to sort of absurdist.
Which, after reading Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and some Terry Pratchett books, you realise that there are nowhere near anything absurdist about it.
Oh no, it is still a little bit absurdist. I worry there's not enough absurdism.
Yes.
Because it's not really a satire book, is the issue. I think there are elements of satire though. And it's the sort of story that I could really ramp up the satire, because the main villains in my book are literally a property development corporation. Which has, like, there's quite a lot of room for satire in that concept. However, I don't know. I think it's the sort of thing I just have to finish the second draft and get some feedback on to really decide. Because at the same time, I think I want to watch the movie, because I think the generation that's going to be reading my book is going to be a mixture of sort of adults in my era, probably, mainly. And I would say a higher percentage will have seen the movie over reading the book.
Well, that's just normal for this current world, to be honest.
Not true. But I think then, if not that I want mine to be sort of Hollywoodized, but I think it will probably be more in line with what the movie is like to what the book is like. So there's that. I'm also very much, of the two, I would lean more towards mine being more like Pratchett. Not that I'm on his level of skill at turning a phrase by any means.
If you want to see, the books we've read of Pratchett's, don't compare yourself to them. Go read his Colour of Magic, because that's his first ever book. And
no, what I'm comparing to
the Von
is
Lipnik books are
not the turn of phrase ability. That's fine. I'll get there eventually. Not currently. Like, I have quite a good turn of phrase, but it's always going to be a slightly different voice anyway, so I'm not too concerned about that. What I'm comparing to of the two of them is that mine is very character and plot driven, way more so than any Douglas Adams stuff.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So I don't know then whether that makes it a good comparison. But I would like to experiment with adding back in a bit more of this elemental absurdist satirical humor. And it's got more, going back to MASH again, my book's humor is way more MASH than it is Douglas Adams. It's like MASH with a little bit of Douglas Adams. The other thing that gave me pause for thought was that my book is not referencing an actual book in the world. The way that Hitchhikers Guide to the Galaxy is.
Yeah, but I see that as reading too much into it. But
that's another thing. I'm not sure if that's particularly important.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if people would have that expectation based off of the title that I've got. Like, if you were picking up a book called The Space Pirate's Guide to was it Space Pirate's Guide to Accidental Mutiny?
Yeah, something like that.
Did I actually have the word space pirates in there? Now I can't remember.
It fits though.
Now I'm laughing because I was literally looking at books the other day that came up under space pirates and sort of like shit talking some of the ones that actually used the phrase space pirates in the title.
Yeah, but let's face it, a lot of them look like they're bodice rippers.
They do. Which is fun. I didn't know there was that kind of bodice ripper out there. I might go buy some.
Although, yeah, I must admit, I was tempted with the hot dogs in space. I can't even remember what the name was. That was just the name itself. You're just sitting there going, oh, honey, I know they're not talking about a favorite American street food.
Yeah.
I guess so. You could say it was an American street food, but yeah.
American street food? Ooh. Now, where did I put those titles? Anyway, back to my original question. If you picked up a book titled The Space Pirate's Guide to Accidental Mutiny,
I would expect humor.
You would expect humor. Would you expect it to be an actual guide style book, or would you expect it more to be something to do with the plot involves some accidental mutiny and some space pirates?
I guess it's because I have seen titles like that in the science fiction and fantasy section in the past. I'm trying to remember some of them. I would expect it to be just humorous, irrelevant at times, and if it had a subtitle, like, Space Pirate's Guide to Accidental Mutiny, how to get your ship and keep it, I would expect it to be a fake how-to book. But without the subtitle, to me, it just sounds like a comedic book. Does that make sense? That's me, though. And I do have unpopular opinions.
I think I would give it to like alpha beta readers, critique partners, probably better word, with the title and have one of the questions at the end. I would actually have 2 questions, 2 or 3 questions. One before they even read the book. Based off this title, what are your expectations?
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end, based off the title.
Well, do you think the book relates to the title well enough? Yeah, or something along those lines. Yeah. Yeah, see, you just hit on one of my very unpopular opinions on this little thing called the YouTubes.
Mm-hmm.
Is I don't necessarily agree with beta readers.
Well,
at all.
Yeah, well, for me,
critique partners, workshopping, yes. Beta readers, to me, that's just advanced readership.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what it is. I know.
Well, that's what I consider it to be anyway.
Because also, too, everyone that I know that's tried to do beta readers, and I know there's people out there that do it very successfully, but everyone that I know that I've spoken to that's tried beta readers only ever gets 1 or 2 responses back.
Yeah.
When critique partners, you're critiquing their work, they're critiquing your work, you both have a vested reason to get it done.
Mm.
You know, and I know it's not necessarily the most favorite of opinions on YouTube when it comes to that sort of thing, but
it's interesting as well.
How I found I've had a very, very successful workshopping crew for 20 years.
It's interesting as well because I have several people in the background who have agreed to read my book when it's ready. And when I asked some of them originally, I said beta read.
Yeah.
However, what I actually really want is a sort of workshop critique, or alpha read, as others would refer to it as, because all of the people are writers or authors of some kind.
Yeah.
Beta reads, I would get people like my housemates and some of my friends in theatre.
Yeah. Well, see, I have friends that I have met through the science fiction and fantasy fan. There is a club called the Melbourne Science Fiction and Fantasy Fan Group, the MSFC.
Yeah,
I've met people through that. Oh, that was a big sneeze. Those are the people I would offer it to read and give me generalized feedback, because they're big readers in the genres. I want their opinions of it. But if I want someone to pull it apart and actually give me feedback on sentence structure, plot structure, what you think's going to happen in the next chapter, whether or not they even like the main character, that to me is a workshop or a critique group.
Yeah, that's not a beta reader. That would be more alpha reader.
Yeah.
Or critique partner.
Yeah.
Or work.
And I'm not saying they have to give full on advice on how to change the story. That you just really want from them.
I just want them to know
their
where
opinions.
the issues are.
Yeah.
Where the issues are, what their opinions are, whether they are invested enough, they want to keep reading it till the end.
Yeah.
Their guesses for what might happen.
Yeah.
All of that.
Yeah. Because sometimes the guesses are more telling than anything else I've discovered.
Yes. Because if they guess right off the back, and everyone guesses right off the back what the big twist is meant to be, that tells you whether you are doing it very wrong or very right.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, this broken wheel is being a pain in the ass. That's better. Oh, for fuck's sake. Get to the front, you little bastard.
You good?
I'm only just starting to like this chair and it's broken. I'm good. So I think that's kind of answered my question, because I think what I really have to do is finish this draft.
Yeah.
I've had to finish this draft for the last 2 years, but it's fine. Literally 2 years now. Oh my god. Anyway.
2 years is nothing. You're an amateur.
2 years of hobby writing. And I say hobby writing not as like hobby level writing, but as writing for me is not my priority.
There's a reason I started the storyline and the idea I've had since 1994 or 95. Because it's never been never been a priority. It's always been just something fun. So, but yeah.
I'm the same. Idea-wise,
I must admit, like, Emmy put up a video about taking time, and why there seems to be, and as part of it, she was saying that, one of the things that she sort of thinks is the reason there's so many authors jumping from project to project is they're pressured to have content.
Yeah.
And I tend to agree with that, because it happens in the knitting podcasts is people actually go, I've got to get this finished. I've got to get this finished. I've got to get this finished to show for the podcast, when it's really just enjoy your knitting.
Oh dear, I've been working on that jumper for 5 years.
Yeah, you would fail at knit. Actually, you know what? You would probably do a very good knitting podcast, because you can just sit there and gas bag for 3 hours. Trust me, that's all you got to do in a knitting podcast.
I could, yeah. Maybe that's a side hustle once I've got all the time in the world.
What's time? I don't remember what time is.
Almost 10 o'clock.
Yeah, we'll wrap up soon.
I would not say I've completely discounted the title, given the added context of having read the book. I think the next stage for me is going to be watching the movie, because that will be another layer of contextual markers. But also, I am still pretty happy with it, despite those few contextual questions that have popped up from reading of the book. And so I think I'm going to stick with it for now, because it also gives me the freedom to use other titles in the universe that mirror that format. So the list of titles that I came up with were for short story ideas for Space Donuts, which is an anthology I will write one day. And another one in the list of things was The Surveyor's Guide to Planetary Redevelopment and The Scavenger's Guide to Not Dying. Which all kind of fit into the series. I also have Space Turtles, which is the most niche Pirates of the Caribbean reference.
Yes.
And I think it's going to need the subtitle of How to Get Off a Closed Down Planet. And that's going to be, I already know what the rough plot for that is, but that's going to be a Odyssey retelling, in a way, of this character stuck on a dead planet trying to get home. And at some point, when they finally get back, there's going to be a run-in with someone who was involved in getting them stranded there in the first place, deliberately asking them how they got off. And their response is going to be Space Turtles, mate.
Space Turtles.
Space Turtles.
Oh, dear.
The fun you have with titles. It kind of fits with Space Donuts as well.
Yes.
The Junkyard at the End of the Galaxy. Wormhole Racing. Airlock 3. And Space Donuts. Surveyor's Guide to Planetary Redevelopment may be a novella or one of the books in the series. And The Scavenger's Guide to Not Dying, I think, is probably a prequel to Space Pirate's Guide to Accidental Mutiny. But had a lot of fun brainstorming, and these were story ideas, and some of them turned into titles.
Yeah, that happens. See, I'm just boring. The first series, the Elite War series, all my titles are already pre-planned out, and they're literally just ship titles. They're the names of the ships that are figured more prominently in each book.
Yeah.
That's it. So, yeah. But when you have the Tide of the Stars, the Elite War, Vault File 1, and then you have the name of the book, you kind of want to keep the name of the book short because the series title is quite long.
Yeah.
So, yes. I like one word. I must admit, I like one word titles. I really do.
I do too. And I was seriously considering one, but I just couldn't come up with anything that fit perfectly well enough. But I'm quite happy with this format that I've fallen into that's very referential of Adams and the humorists. And I'm looking forward to actually getting a draft out and getting these edits done. Because I mainly just want to have someone else read it other than me. But yeah, I think that's everything I wanted to touch on for the last of the Adams chats.
Okay, so I think what we might do is we might call it there. And because I want ice cream now. So we'll thanks for joining us. The next book will be Guards by Terry Pratchett. We will also be watching The Watch, which is is it HBO series?
Stan, I think.
Stan series. It is inspired. They actually say it is inspired by the Terry Pratchett Guards series of Ankh-Morpork. So there's a lot of differences, but I think it'll be fun to chat about them because I've seen a couple of the episodes and I love it.
It's mildly sort of sci-fi.
It's very punky. It's punky.
Yeah.
I don't even want to call it sci-fi. It's punky. Yeah. I love it. I think it's very. I think Pratchett would have loved it.
He would have. You just know.
Yeah. Yes. I think he would have been. I think he honestly would have sat there and said, "This is the books that I would." He would have written if it was if Ankh-Morpork went into a more modern society like we're in now. If we got past the steampunk and ended up in the modern day, I reckon it would be
that would be the Ankh-Morpork of modern technology.
Yes.
Cool. Well, we will reconvene
on your channel.
On my channel for Guards and The Watch discussion,
which will be third Friday is the 17th. So here's hoping we're out of lockdown by then.
Yeah, here's hoping. Oh, I have a dentist appointment that day as well. I had one this morning. It's at 8 a.m. again anyway. Yeah, 17th. I'm going to put that in my calendar now.
Yes. And we shall...
There we go. Yes, we'll be chatting that. We'll be over on my channel, which I believe is linked below. Otherwise, you can find me by just searching Charlotte Armstrong wherever you want, and I'll probably pop up somewhere.
There is a link below.
There is. There usually is.
And...
Not to be arrogant or anything, but there usually is.
Yes. That's just because I'm on the ball, and I'm very, very ready to do all this sort of stuff.
Nice. So
I actually just have a template saved in my Trello, and I just copy and paste it over.
I have a template set as my default upload template that does the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, I copy across. So we'll be over there. If you want more of me or Renee between now and then, I'm streaming Sunday morning. Renee is doing Whiskey Wednesdays occasionally, or Saturday craft chats, I think it was.
Yeah, it usually comes down to whether or not the babies have gone to sleep at a decent time, and whether or not I have the study to myself.
So basically what we're telling you is you should subscribe and you'll get the notifications.
Yes. Although I must admit, the occasional hand popping over is rather amusing.
It is. It is very much.
Very much. I love him dearly.
Yes. So in the meantime, you can buy Renee's book, which I'm sure is linked below. It is an excellent read. It is a lot of fun. And if you have any small children, or know anyone with some small children, it would make an excellent gift for said children.
And coincidentally, my son will be going to Book Week next week dressed as himself. Because our childcare sent out the reminder for Book Week at 6 p.m. tonight. We are in lockdown. Where the hell am I going to get any costumes in 2 days that are a weekend with no shipping?
You know what you should do, though? You should send him dressed as Baba.
I would if I could get my hand on it.
Oh, gosh.
Now, what I've managed to do is I've managed to purchase a Wiggles outfit. Now, I don't know which one I'm going to get because it's randomized. So I might get either of the three boys. So purple Wiggle, red Wiggle, or blue Wiggle.
Mm.
To be honest, if we get the red Wiggle, I might be ringing them and saying, hey, can we change it over for a different one? But I think he'll be happy with either blue or purple. But so he'll want to wear that twice because he loves Wiggles. And he can go another day as himself. So.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Oh, he'll take the book with him. I'll give him a copy of the book. He can take the book with him, and they can, because I think they read the books to each other and things like that. So
nice. So yeah, if you'd like to get a copy of Where is Baba, Renee has written a wonderful children's book, which I have a copy of up on the shelf, but I can't bother getting out of my chair to get it. It's excellent. You should totally buy a copy. Have I got a copy?
Oh, I've got a tub behind me, not in this beautiful fireplace, but it's got all my signed stock, which I still have to list. There he is.
You can also buy a signed copy and get an excellent signature, like so.
Not just signed by the author, but signed by the star of the book.
Yeah. Oh, I've still got a copy of Stardust that belongs to my friend.
Oh, look. Actually, can I just point out something here, guys? And I'm a huge person to say support local, right? But Robinson's Bookstore for me to get 3 books, $75.97. 2 of which are not in stock, so I'd have to wait for them. QBD books, the same 3 books, is $63.97. Amazon, the exact 3 books, free shipping, $51.48.
Yep. Pretty much. Jeffrey Bezos.
What do? You want to support local, but I mean, I got a budget.
Yeah. And it's harder as well when you got to pay for shipping because you can't go in and pick them up.
Yes. Which I would be happy to wait, like, because our Robinsons, I love our Robinsons one. And I'll be happy to wait, but I don't know when they're going to get them in, you know?
Fucking
so. Anyway, we'll call it a night there, guys. Thanks for joining us. It was a bit rambly tonight, but I think Douglas Adams would have appreciated that.
Fucking notifications about Minions posting a video on Facebook. I don't want that shit.
Well, in the meantime, we shall leave you with the question everyone wants to know the answer to. And that is, why did the bowl of petunias say not again?